Well, it's time for this here gear review. Hello, my name is Julianne, also known as Roadrunner, and in 2022 I thru-hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, and in 2024 I thru-hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. And I thought that after about 5,000 miles total, having hiked over the last 2.5–3 years, I could go over the gear that I feel like works. Well, hello. You want to come here? Now I know the colors be clashing back here, but I have all my gear laid out, and I'll probably, so that I don't forget. Ma'am. No, ma'am. Can I do my video now? This should be fun. She clearly wants to be around. I thought about doing this video outside, but my mom has a crazy neighbor, as well as I think the sound would be a little bit better here. And my dog is never going to let me do this gear review video. She's mad at me. Anyway, so I thought that after about 5,000 miles of having hiked, that I can go over the gear that I used not only for the Pacific Crest Trail, but probably also for the Appalachian Trail, and to see what has lasted, what do I believe in, I mean, it's just gonna be my gear after the PCT, but also overall my gear, because I don't really have an abundance of gear. I usually use the same stuff. So we'll probably start with the most important item, which is my backpack. Okay, my backpack is an Hyperlite Unbound 55 liters. I'm not really somebody who is gonna go over all the specs. If you wanna know, you gotta just Google it. I'm gonna tell you about the practicality of the gear and all that stuff. I like this kind of backpack. It's a Dyneema pack. I choose Dyneema because it's water resistant. It's not waterproof, but it is water resistant. I really wanted this pack. I had the Hyperlite Wind Rider for my Appalachian Trail through hike, and I like Hyperlite backpacks, and I wanted the Unbound because of the different pocket material. It also has a second pocket right here that you can grab easily through. It has a pocket down here, which I never use, so it's really not that necessary. And I personally really like the big pockets. That's a big change from the Wind Rider, because the Wind Rider pockets are just very uncomfortable to grab. Now, I never do that anyway, but a lot of people find these pockets to be a lot more convenient. I mean, I can go over all kinds of backpack stuff. I probably shouldn't talk too much about it because then this video is going to be 500 years long. Loved the backpack. We'll use it again. I'll always go with a Hyperlite. I think I'm also interested in a Durston. I do have a ULA circuit, and so these are kind of the packs that me personally I like and am interested in. I've never worn a Durston Kakwa, but I am interested in it. For the pack, I did purchase this water bottle holder from Etsy. I've had like 3 or 4 of these. They break halfway through the through hike, and I usually have to sew them. As you can see, I took a piece of a sock and put it on the bottom. I need to get a new one. I don't remember how much it is. I think it's like 20–30 bucks or something, but I love having my water bottle in the front. I also added this pocket right here, and in the pocket I normally carried this Positive Potato. He was usually down there. And if y'all wondering what is this Positive Potato all about, I have a subscriber who's currently struggling with cancer, and he sent me a few little items, and I decided to carry one of the items with me for the entire Pacific Crest Trail through hike. So the Positive Potato was part of that. The other thing that I had in my pocket here were my sunglasses, and the sunglasses that I had before were Tifosi. And then these are new ones. The other ones that I had, I lost at Lassen Park. So I have these Tifosis now, and I like them a lot. So yeah, I would keep the sunglasses in this pocket. Now, what I would keep in the right hip belt pocket, I would keep my Garmin Messenger in there during the day. What I would do in the morning, I would clip it to this carabiner, wait until my check-in goes through, shut it off, and then put it into the hip belt pocket. The reason why I do that is, I don't know, I just don't have it on during the day, but I do clip it on the outside of the tent at night so that anybody can get a hold of me at night. And I also have my amazing headlamp, which is the Nightcore NU, the old version, and it's been with me for my entire 5,000 plus miles. It's an amazing headlamp and I love it. My left hip belt pocket, I do have some picaridin insect repellent, some sun lotion, as well as some chafing, some Body Glide. It's like anti-chafing balm. And I never really had problems with chafing my entire life until I started through hiking. And so yeah, this is a lifesaver. Really, chafing can be extremely painful. And then of course on this particular pocket right here, I have my trowel, which is the Deuce. And then toilet paper and bags to put the toilet paper in, and lady products. On this pocket, I also would put my 1.5 liter water bottle with my water filter. And then on this, at this pocket, I would put my sandals and my tent stakes and any kind of little things. So that's my pack. Love the pack, and this is where I carry things. And yeah, I really recommend Hyperlight backpacks. I can't say anything about anything else, but that's the backpack. That's the first part of my big three. The second part of my big three is my beautiful quilt. I've had this quilt again all the 5,000 plus miles. This is an Enlighten Equipment Revelation 10 degree 850 fill with blue on the outside and orange on the inside. It still works. I can tell that it's getting less lofty. It is definitely on its way of retirement. And so one of the things that I had discussed, this is a quilt. So a quilt works like you have these straps, you put them around your sleeping pad, and then, you know, it kind of helps you keep that from any sort of drafts. I think I'm done with quilting. I would really like still the Convert quilt from Enlighten Equipment. The reason why that is a quilt I'd like is because it has a zipper that you can convert the quilt into an actual sleeping bag. And so I would really like to get more something like that. And so that's really what I would change about my gear from now on until future time. I would change just quilt to either a sleeping bag or a quilt that can convert to a sleeping bag. The other part of the sleep system is, well, I don't know why I undid that, but it's the Thermarest X-Lite Neo Air. My old one that I used for the entire AT Tahoe Rim Foothills eventually broke in Aqua Dulce. Well, it broke before Aqua Dulce, but I replaced that in Aqua Dulce. So my other sleeping pad probably lasted about 3,000 miles. And this new one is still working. It did have a little hole in there that I fixed, which was around the valve, but it seems to be still in really good condition and it's not leaking any air now. Definitely love Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite. I mean, maybe the really old versions were loud, but I never felt that my sleeping pad was loud, even the old one that I had. I know people claim that it sounds like a bag of chips, and it's just not true. I don't know what people think a bag of chips sounds like, but it never did. Now, one of my luxury items that I will never go without is the Flex Tail 1.2. I think this probably weighs more like 1.3 or 1.4 ounces, and it is amazing. On the Appalachian Trail, I blew up my sleeping pad with my mouth the entire time. Never was a problem. Don't think it is a problem, but if I can alleviate some of that evening task, this is it. 1.3 or 1.4 ounces. It blows up my sleeping pad in about a minute or something, and I love it. It's a really great product, and the battery life lasts forever. The other part of my big three is obviously my tent. I have the Z-Packs Duplex. This is the spruce green color, supposedly. I had this type of tent for the Appalachian Trail as well, and my tent lasted. Bend, Oregon, I think is where I got my new tent. And my old one was a duplex as well, but it just started getting little tiny holes. I sent it home. I didn't throw it away. It's still a good tent, but I wanted to have something a little bit more secure when it comes to rain. And so I got a new tent, same one, Zpacks duplex. I don't know what to say, but it is really, in my opinion, one of the best tents, if not the best tent for a through hike, honestly. Like, it's light, it sets up so quickly. You need only 6 tent stakes. You could use 8 to make it a little bit cooler, but freestanding, I mean, just look up the details, but it is a great tent. For the tent, as well as walking, I have some trekking poles. And this is what you need to set up a tent, but also this is what you need to survive hiking. Some people are like, tell us really why these are necessary. I mean, I don't know. If you can walk without trekking poles, you are one of the very few, because these trekking poles have saved me so many times from literally breaking my legs. And it's just kind of like, if you think of an animal and how it has 4 limbs, right? It can maneuver around a lot better than somebody on just 2 legs. And so these are really our 4th limbs. And I love it. I love using trekking poles. I think they're awesome. Now, these are super cheap. They are Trail Buddy from Amazon. They're like $30. I go probably through 3 pair while I'm on a through hike, but because they're so cheap, it doesn't really matter. The reason why I have to go through so many sometimes is the tip goes away, and just putting on a new tip, yeah, you can do it. It is a little bit difficult to do, but if you buy a new tip, like, it almost as expensive as just buying a new pair of trekking poles. So I love the Trail Buddies. I've used them since I started hiking. I personally don't really care for really light trekking poles because they make me feel like they're just gonna break right under my body. And I have seen other hikers who had fallen with their trekking poles, and those trekking poles just bent, like, and they just broke. These, I just don't think they're possible to break. I mean, I haven't. I only broken the tips, but otherwise nothing's really ever happened with those. My tent stakes, I have this little bag. I made this bag from some umbrella material. The tent stakes that I use are the Mr. Groundhogs, the regular size, not the mini. Some people are just like trying to be so ultra light. At some point you gotta just like use something sturdy. These have lasted all the 5,000 plus miles. The MSR Groundhogs are just, they're just the way to go. I don't know what else you would want to use. All right, food. I use a Zpacks bear bag. The person who gave this bag to me had this on there, I think, just so that you can see it among all the other bear bags. This doesn't really make a difference on the PCT because a lot of people just have their bag in their tent with them, or they have a canister during the Sierra, as well as up in Washington. There is an area up north where you are supposed to carry a bear canister. I didn't know this. The way you go around that is just you hang your bear bag, and I did that. It was not as easy as on the AT just because the trees are not like AT trees, but I had become pretty nifty, or whatever the word is, with trying to hang a bear bag on trees that just, it's almost impossible. But it increased my skills. So that's the bear bag. You just put your food in there, you put it in your backpack, and that's that. This little guy has been traveling with me the entire 5,000 plus miles. It's just, I don't know why he's there, but he's there. The cooking pot that I use is the Tokes. I believe it's 600 or 650 milliliters. And I have had this since the Appalachian Trail. Now, this has warped a little bit, so now when I put the lid on, it doesn't, it doesn't really sit on it. So I'm thinking about just getting a new pot, but it's hard for me to let go since this has been with me for the entire time I've been a hiker. So it's not really in great shape anymore, so I probably will need to replace it. This is just what it comes in. I do love having this because you can just fit it right in, And everything, like you put your fuel canister in here, which I don't have one right now. You have your lighter, and then you can just cinch it, boom, shakalaka, and it's like all nice and sturdy. Some people get rid of the little pouch, but it just doesn't make sense because it sets it up so nicely. Now I do have this little buff that wraps around my stove. The stove that I have, I believe, is the Jet Boil. Now this I replaced in, I don't remember, but so I got this new stove. I originally had the Snow Peak and I had it the entire AT, halfway through the PCT. Eventually it just didn't screw on top of the fuel canisters anymore. So I got the Jet Boil. This particular one is a self-ignition. It's way heavier than the Snow Peak. The Snow Peak is already not a very light stove. Me personally, I think I'm gonna look for some different stove. I know that there is something like a BSR. It's really cheap on Amazon and also very light. I'm probably gonna go and find one of those. I do think it's convenient that it has the self-ignition. However, it didn't always work, so I still needed my lighter, and I just don't think you should ever go without a lighter. Now, the spork that I use, I don't know, it's Out XE. I've had this my entire career of hiking. I like it a lot. I love that it has a long handle, but as some of you know, I don't really like annoying sounds, and one of the things that I find when I have the spork is that it does make the stupid, like the sound is really annoying. And it's not even just for me, but like when I'm around other people, or if I'm, you know, when it's like early in the morning, it just feels so loud to be eating with this thing. And so one of the ladies that I hiked with somewhere, she had something like this. Boom! It's plastic, it has fork on one side and a spoon on the other side. So I decided to check it out and see if I like it. I used it a little bit on the Pinhoti hike. I had both items with me because I needed to carry it with me. And I like it. I'm not sure, you know, if I had some sort of bag that I would need a long handle, but at this point I really don't need a long handle. So these are going to be continuously tested out which one I prefer. Now the water filtration system that I have is the Sawyer Squeeze, and I've used this Sawyer Squeeze the entire PCT. Or did I buy a new one? No, I think now maybe I'm wrong, but I think I used this one the entire PCT. Also, I've used the same O-ring the entire PCT because now I know how to screw the filter on top of the bottle. I used to squeeze it too hard and then the O-ring would break. So now if you just screw it tight enough for it to not be too tight, then the O-ring will last forever. Now, why do I put this into a little baggie? Is because when it freezes, you want to put it in a baggie and then have it with you so that it doesn't freeze. Anyway, there's a lot of videos about how to take care of a water filter. Let's talk about my electronic bag. So this is a little Dyneema bag that I think I got on Etsy as well. I think it's also ready to say goodbye, but I like having this cute little bag just handy. Now, as a vlogger, I did carry two power banks. One is a 20,000 and one is a 10,000. So if you see, this one's really old. I had to put duct tape on it because it starts coming apart. However, this has been more reliable than the 10,000. There's something about the 10,000 where it just starts discharging by itself versus this one never did. The buttons are different. So like here, you just turn it on, right? And the same is here, but turning it off, you have to hold it on the 20,000, but you have to double click it on the 10,000. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. Maybe I'm just doing the wrong thing when I use my 10,000, But anyway, these are the two that I've used. Personally, I only think I would need two 10,000 power banks instead of one 10,000, one 20,000. I think having 30,000, even as a vlogger, is a little bit overkill unless I were to start having different kind of camera systems. But this one's been something that I could rely on. So these are the two power banks that I carried. Now I also had a power plug with two spots. Now one of these plugs is broken, or one of these outlet thingies, so I need to get a new one. And this is really my request for you guys to recommend something. This is very slow charging, and I just need to find something that is faster charging and not like really heavy, because this is pretty light. The other thing that I had to carry with myself is obviously the charging cable. So this cable is good for my Messenger, for the flex tail, and then because my headlamp is the old headlamp, it has a different plug, so somebody gave this to me and I can just connect it and save some weight. Instead of carrying two cables, I can have that. I also had to have an SD card reader. With an SD card, that is where I would save all of my videos. The dog's here again. Would save all of my videos, and I had to do that. If I would not save my videos every night on the SD card, my phone would say, no more, you gotta make some space. And then of course I carry my second SD card. This is my entire Pacific Crest Trail through hike right here. So, okay, we're getting to clothes and any kind of fabric stuff. So as a lady, we generally carry something called a pea cloth. You can either get a Cooler cloth. Mine is an Amazon version, Cirque Care. I need a new one for sure, but I've had this for the AT and the PCT. Time to get a new one. I also would have a little, it's pack towel. This is originally like a really big one, and I just cut it to a smaller size because I really just needed that. I would have it over my shoulder, you know, clean my nose or wipe my sweat, whatever. And this is really helpful to have. You can also just use a buff and, you know, put it on your shoulder strap, but I really liked having this. I like the material. It also helps me clean my phone lens. I also had this handkerchief. I didn't plan to have this. Somebody sent it to me, and I loved that it said Roadrunner. It's also orange. It worked with my backpack. And this is really good to have when you hike during hunting season. And I just liked having it with me, and I'm probably going to carry it with me just because I use it to clean my feet or to wipe down my tent, but also it's just a good memory. I love this. I also carried a buff with me. Usually I would just have this on at night as like a hat, but also to put over my eyes. So that way everything would be dark. Like sometimes you are in an area where there's too much light, or like the moon can get incredibly light. And so having that over the eyes helps a lot. So these two things right here, I literally almost never used, but I carried it the entire Pacific Crest Trail. These are booties. These are not down booties. They're synthetic booties from Enlighten Equipment, but I just really never used them. I felt like I should carry them with me just in case, but they're really light. I just don't think they are necessary for me, and I'm probably not going to carry them with me from now on, but they were there. Never really used them. I did use gloves. These here gloves are right there. The REI Co-op. They do what they need to do to keep your hands warm in the morning. They don't really do a great job keeping them super warm, but they were good enough for something like a Pacific Crest Trail through hike. I'm not sure they would be really that good for through, you know, true winter hiking or anything like that. And if y'all have any recommendations of good gloves, please let me know, because I haven't really found anything that really makes me feel very confident about keeping my hands warm. Okay, so we're getting to more the clothing, right? So if you've watched my videos, you know that I was wearing sun hoodies. Yes, I have most of my sun hoodies. I don't have the original one, which was like a sage color by Mountain Hardwear. And that's pretty much what this is. This is a Mountain Hardwear hoodie. I really like the material. It has thumb holes, which helps for the Pacific Crest Trail through hike, so to keep your hands from too much sun exposure. I like the way this wraps around the neck. I love the material. I'm not a fan of these little stringy things. I don't know why they do this to ladies, but when we go to the bathroom, you know, something's in the way, so I usually take this out. I haven't had any problems recently, so I haven't taken this, but I probably will take this out. It's not necessary. I don't know why they do that. So this is what I had at the beginning and now at the end, and I really love Mountain Hardwear. It's probably the brand I'll stick to until I find something else. Now, when I had to replace my first Mountain Hardwear, I went with something called a Smart Wool hoodie. And look at just the way this even looks. It looks so filthy, and it's a clean shirt. Smart Wool does not work for like a hot environment like the PCT. I don't know what people say when they say that this really works for like hot environments. Smart Wool made me sweat exponentially, and then of course my sweat, the salt really stained the shirt. This I only wore for a few hundred miles, and I couldn't bear it anymore. Also, it broke pretty quickly. Like, the material itself is not very sturdy, and I got holes in there. Now, I did keep this for a sleeping shirt, which I used to not have a sleeping shirt. I would just sleep in the same hoodie that I'd hike in, but I do like to have a sleeping shirt now. So this I also use for sleeping. And then the other shirt that I replaced it with was this right here. I actually don't even know what the brand is. Janji. It's similar material as the Mountain Hardwear. I didn't like the cut. I didn't like how it wrapped around my face. I personally wouldn't get this again, but I don't know why I'm still carrying it. I guess just when I traveled here, I just still had it. So these are my sun hoodie extravaganzas. Since I was talking about sleeping and what I would be sleeping in, as I said, I would sleep in the one sun hoodie, and I had these socks right here. They're nothing special. They have like this fancy material, but I mean, they were nice. I had them the entire PCT through hike. And then these amazing, I guess they're called long johns. My mom gave them to me a long time ago. They're by Vicherub. They've been with me the entire hiking career, 5,000 plus miles. I'll not go without those. They're not the lightest, but they're amazing. They keep me nice and cozy. Now, the other thing that I was wearing is I was either wearing some long pants or some shorts, okay? The long pants that I wore this time on the PCT were bay leaf hiking pants. I like the way they fit and feel, but the quality is not good. They break very easily. This is my second pair, and it already had some holes that I had to fix. And yeah, I mean, I would buy these again just because they feel so nice, but like quality wise, they just don't last very long. So if you're willing to buy a few pair while you're hiking, maybe go with those, but I'm gonna look for some better hiking pants. On the AT, I used hiking leggings. I like that as well, but I think I'm a little bit more of a pants fan over leggings. And so if you have any recommendations of nice pants, I'd highly would like to know. And then I loved these shorts. So these shorts did really well for the entire through hike. Now, I had some shorts on the AT that were not this brand, and there was holes all over. These pants lasted really long. Now, you do see that there is a little bit of a rip right here, but overall, these shorts were amazing, and I'm gonna get a new pair. The flamingos were a hit. Everybody loved looking at those flamingos. I got recognized because of the flamingos, and these are chicken legs. And also, if you saw my PCT videos, a guy named Sonic that I hiked with, he had chicken legs, and these are just, they have such great patterns, and they have them in different length. I chose the longer version rather than the shorter version, and so I highly recommend these shorts because I'm getting a new pair. Now, the item that I never use, ever, but I've kept with me all the 5,000 miles, are these ballet pants. So these ballet pants are good to keep you warm, and I maybe do wear them sometimes at night instead of having a liner. I have these with me to keep me warm. But I would say the percentage of me having hiked and worn these is literally 2%. I've worn these 2% of the time that I've done any sort of hiking. Now these are light. They're really not, there's really no big penalty in carrying these with you. And I probably will continue carrying them just because they are so light. But I am currently looking for some rain pants that I'll probably replace these with. And the reason why is I had a really scary situation during the PCT where I became extremely cold. I didn't have any rain pants. My hiking partner at the time had rain pants. She felt really comfortable. I was in beginning stages of hypothermia, and so having watched how she, who typically gets way colder than I do, she was good in that weather and I was not. So I really do need some really good rain pants. Let's talk about the socks and the footwear. I just recently realized what my problem was. So when I did my Appalachian Trail through hike, I used toe socks. They kind of look like this. These are toe liners by Injinji. And on top of the toe socks on the AT, I used Darn Tough socks. And that worked really well for me. I never had any blisters. For some reason, I changed to liners this time, liners and Darn Tough socks, and I got a lot of blisters compared to the AT. I wouldn't say I got blisters I didn't really get a lot overall, but compared to the AT, I got a lot of blisters. And I realized only now, having hiked the Pinhoti, that it's the liners. So there are some Injinji socks in the mail for me. I'm going to change to Injinji actual socks versus liners. Now these feel so cozy and comfortable and floofy, but the material doesn't last long, especially on the PCT. You have so much dust and so much abrasion that liners are just not beneficial, but actual socks will. Now, because the socks are thicker, you might need to have a larger size in shoe to be able to fit all the sock stuff. I personally would not go with liners again. I would only use the actual toe socks by Injinji as well as the Darn Toughs on top. And that has really worked for me. So I'll give you an update if that's changed anything. The shoes that I wore, I don't have my shoes up here, but the shoes that I wore were the Salomon Speedcross Generation 5. That's what I wore for the entire PCT. The Generation 5 is just because I knew they worked for me. I bought them on Amazon, and I think I went through 4 or 5 pair. And I recently started wearing the Generation 6, and they seem just fine. My camp shoes were the Tevas or Tevas. I have no idea how to pronounce them. This is something that I changed from the AT. On the AT, I had Crocs. I personally prefer the sandals. You can pack these way better than Crocs. They are heavier than Crocs, but they're more comfortable and you can pack them way better. So I love my Tevas/Tevas. All right, so rain jacket. I had the Montbell. I think it's called Versalite. I can't tell you if I'm a fan or not a fan. I feel like water does come through. I know a lot of people swear by this jacket. I just personally can't tell you that I really would swear by it. So I didn't have a lot of rain situations, but the ones that I had were, I didn't feel like it was really helping me a lot, okay? Now, the two mid layers that I had the Sky Gold microgrid hoodie right here. Now this is one as well, and I love this. I love this thing. I used this kind of hoodie for the AT as well as the PCT. So there was this big thing for me where I didn't know which mid layer I was going to carry. I do also have an Alpha Direct by Senchi, and that one is a lot lighter than a microgrid. But I decided to go with this to start out in the desert, and I actually never changed to my Senchi. Now my Senchi got lost in the mail, so maybe that happened for a reason, but I was carrying this the whole time, and to be honest, I was happy to have had this. There were situations that were really cold. One time in the middle of the summer, I had a freezing night, and you know, I probably could have survived, but I was happy to have this. Now, the thing that I almost never wore on the PCT, but I used as a pillow, was my puffy by Enlightened Equipment. It's the Torrid. It's synthetic. It's not down. I love this thing. I've had this since the AT. I'll always carry it with me, even if I barely wear it. I just feel like it's important to have a puffy. It's my pillow. I don't carry a pillow with me, so I just think it's good to have this in case it gets really cold, or to have a pillow. The two things that I would have for my tent, I would have a Tyvek ground sheet that I put under my tent, and then I also had a Gossamer Gear foam pad that I would put under my sleeping pad, and this really protected my sleeping pad and gave me extra warmth, so highly recommend. Back to clothing, y'all have seen this guy. This is my hat. I've had this kind of hat, as in like the same pattern, the same brand, which is Sprint's hat. On the AT, I had the same pattern on the AT, same pattern on the PCT. It's my second hat because I lost the first one. I love this hat. It's very light. I love that the beak, or whatever you call this, is longer than a typical. And I think it's a great hat. It's super light. Love this thing. And then all the stuff in my ditty bag. I don't think I'm gonna go over it today. It'll just make this video extraordinarily long. If you want to know what was in my ditty bag, as well as, you know, tooth stuff and everything, you know, drop a comment and say, yes, we would like to know what was in your ditty bag. But overall, you just have stuff like medical things, hairbrush, and cleaning yourself stuff. So that's really it. And then the other thing that I do want to say, you know, leave no trace. You need to carry a gallon bag or something like that with you. Put the trash in there, and then take care of your nature. So this is my gear video. So I hope this was somewhat beneficial. And thank you so much for watching. I am planning to do another big through hike next year in 2025. So please stay tuned with any kind of gear changes that I'm going to make. But this has worked for me so far. I've mentioned some of the things that I might want to change or not change, but I'm happy with my gear. I really didn't do much switcherooing. So anyway, thank you so much.